I've been here 30 years, and you know, I grew up here. You know, I've been here 30 years, so I love this place. And I love all my brothers and sisters. And shame on you. Shame. I can't believe it. What happened to Aloha? Aloha is what this state has. It's what it is. It's our heart. It's our soul. It's what makes every one of us alive. And you're selling it down the tubes. Shame. Shame on you. I can't believe it. And I wasn't born here, but I love it. And I am born here now. And you disgust me. Thank you.
Mr. Vincente. Hawaii, I cannot ask for your aloha. This process is in direct conflict with existing state law as it pertains to community planning and overall state planning. The creation of a separate corporation does not alleviate the state from its obligations to environmental justice. That's a federal process. And we will certainly be exercising that in the near future. It does not alleviate itself from the fact that the legislature did create the geothermal subzones, of which some 80-odd property owners withdrew. And they will continue to believe that they are withdrawn from the geothermal subzones. And again, there is a federal avenue to see to it that that is honored. I've read through this, and this is clearly the work of someone that comes from a place that is not here. I understand that the majority of the people who passed this bill come from an island that cannot feed itself, clothe itself, house itself, or employ itself. It is totally unsustainable. And that is unfortunate for the people who live there. But that is not us. This process does not, in law, create a process that protects our equal rights. Those are guaranteed by the United States Constitution. And I hear the sovereignty people, and I believe that they are correct in their assumption. But the constitutional law of the United States is what we have to work with at the moment, and we are exploring those avenues. We had a very interesting meeting today on the subject. And the list is endless in this thing. It is a backdoor to illegal taking without compensation. You're not going to get away with it.
Palikapu, Dedman.
Good evening. My name is Dwight Vincente. I'm representing the Hawaiian Kingdom. There's a lot of confusion going out there because apparently nobody has read the true history that was documented by the United States. The United States has a long history, over 200 years. There's an ordinance that was written in 1787 called the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, better known to most people as the Monroe Doctrine. It's very key, and that's the key to all this confusion going on. The United States is a constitutional government which consists of 13 states and Washington, D.C. The ordinance applies in Washington, D.C. The effects is external of the United States, which is the 13 states. It originally was intended to steal the Indian lands west of the 13 states, but it went further than that. In the U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, which gave Congress only the power to dispose of those lands, designated 5, Article 5 of the ordinance. That's where you get the 5F lands designated here. The true title to these lands are Crown and Government lands. Crown to support the Crown, Government to support the legislature of the Kingdom. That's it. And you need a land patent from those guys. And land patent is contract for up to 100 years. Well, the confusion with the ordinance is between the President and Congress. Very seldom will the U.S. District Court entertain a suit based on an ordinance. You have to fly to D.C. to sue. These courts here are all kangaroo. As Steinbeck stated in the 1950 Constitutional Convention, the creation of the territory and the state of Hawaii is based on a Northwest Ordinance of 1787. That's his first message. So we can see it's not a constitutional creature. It's an illegal corporation, which is not restricted by the U.S. Constitution because on one hand you got a Constitution, in the back pocket they pull out the ordinance, which is not telling you. And that's a key to challenging the United States with an ordinance. And the trouble is, you got to fly to D.C. to challenge it, not here. And there's the other one, there's a lot of people talk about the use of less than a treaty to annex Hawaii to Washington, D.C. It's because of the ordinance, nothing else. So if you study the Northwest Ordinance, you'll see the whole history unfold. They even wrote Japan's Constitution after World War II, created a Republic of Germany and took over Italy, not to mention other colonies that took over, which is many. So I'll end with the Queen's protest of January 17, 1893, against U.S. Minister Stevens. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, original jurisdiction, but limited to U.S. Minister Stevens only. U.S. courts have no jurisdiction over this kingdom. Thank you.
Palikapu with the Pele Defense Fund. Sad thing about this is that whatever we're recording, just words, but we cannot really record the emotion and how these words really mean to people. You just read it from a piece of paper. So, I have a list of concerns and questions that for you folks to deal with, since you're at the draft stage. We're really against what's going on here. But first question is, these lands that were crown lands that went into, ceded into how it is now, did the rights of Hawaiians ever have their rights relinquished when the whole process went through? Or it's still applying? Second, if it's 5F lands, how do you show betterment? Because it's the betterment of Native Hawaiians in these 5F lands. The third one is, does OHA sit on, or Hawaiians sit on the decision making when they make, classify these lands for development and all that? Does Hawaiians have input? Who decides what cultural sensitivity is? Do you have practitioners? You make that up yourself, or how do you define that? And then the word public, public lands. You mean I can just get off a plane from some foreign country and I get a piece of the Hawaiian pie because it's public? Is that how you're using the word, this word as a Hawaiian? The economics in this whole thing with these lands, does OHA get an increase to 50% because you're only getting 20 now? So do they get more money out of your economic ideas on these lands? Do Hawaiian people get the first choice on lease or programs or projects on these lands? Do they get first choice on that? What protection does sacred lands have, and how are you going to protect it if you so-called don't have to stand up to statutes that comes with the lands? Just the EIS is all I heard you say. Those burial permits come with that, and all the other permits come with that. can Hawaiians trusts, like other Hawaiian trusts, can they purchase these lands? Or can they have first rights to leasing these lands, large parcels of lands? And how does the state show that they've already did good benefits for Hawaiians in the past? Can you show any of that stuff? Does these lands, why didn't these lands or your department go on sort of like a referendum, let the people decide if they want a body like yours, or you just shove it down their throat? I just thought it should go on a ballot, like a referendum. And does these lands include DLNR and NAR's lands? Where you're going to start taking lands for conservation reasons like you've been doing with DLNR? Are you a smaller little monster of DLNR that you folks going to start doing your own little things, especially with conservation lands? Does OHA litigate you folks? Because now you're going to take the ceded lands or these lands, public lands, lease them out to people. So what does Kalanimoku get? What does this nation building you're talking about? What they going to get if you're going to give all the lands up? Which I think it's a hurry up to start getting the lands out to everybody else before the Hawaiians get them back. Okay? And so what about Kaka'ako? Is that a diversion in saying, look, we paid off the Hawaiians in land because we don't have the money, so now you're going to lease out the land. How are you going to pay off the rest of the bills? You still owe plenty more. And these projects that you talk about with the public, does it go statewide too, like you're doing with these hearings? Because the people on Kauai own public lands like we do in Hawaii. We're the same Hawaiians that have interest in all of these lands. So you go to Big Island and present hearings on development. And you did say something about an EIS is required for all developments on these lands. That's about the only requirement. Just asking questions, you guys not answering. Are there any federal statutes that you guys violate by doing this whole thing? Is there kind of rights that the feds have that we have as so-called ARFA, NIPRA, all these federal rights, does it still apply to these lands? So you guys got to look at that. And does these public lands become something that the military can lease and do expansion on? Are they going to be taking these lands for their uses, military expansions? And how do you look at customary and traditional practices on these lands, like religious rights with development, unbalancing ecosystem, ocean mining, military practices, depleting land, geothermal? Got a couple more questions that I found. On the other public lands, what's considered minerals and resources, and how are you looking at that? Like as our water resource, our fish, our timber, because we're not getting 1 penny from that now, from the state. So you're already ripping off resources. So I don't know how you defend resources. And when you make these so-called conservation zones, or the fishing regulations, hunting regulations still apply when you start changing land zoning. Submerged lands and fish ponds. How are you looking at that on Hawaiian rights with these things, submerged lands and fish ponds? And why not take these lands and put Hawaiians in 49 and under who can make Hawaiian homes? You can create a lot of Hawaiian homes for the 49 and under with these ceded lands. And how come you don't take these ceded lands and make one cemetery for Hawaiians throughout the state with these lands? I'm looking at my Hawaiian interest in this that you guys never had. You just ripped it off and now you're playing with it. So I'll leave you these questions. Thank you.